Yeah, if I ruled the world, I'd lower the coke prices, raise the welfare, and lower the perk prices. You could pay for a feature, even though the flow priceless. Whole team Muslim, we at war like.
Really good question. We're still kind of sorting through that right now. We're not ruling out the possibility that someone else was firing as well, but we're also not ruling out the possibility that as we go through body-worn camera footage and as we go through interviews, to make sure that all of that timeline matches up. So once we are able to determine that, then we'll determine if we do need to look at other individuals or individual who might have been shooting. I know I mentioned yesterday.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hip Hop Forever. Today, we're taking our trip out to Charlotte to find out more about Terry Hughes Jr. shooting with the cops. So in the meantime, I'm going to need y'all like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget, gang, won't incriminate nobody over here. Let's go.
Charlotte, NC, 4 law enforcement officers were killed, and 4 others were injured during a standoff with a man who was wanted on warrants out of Lincoln County on Monday, investigators said. The suspect was identified as 39-year-old Terry Clark Hughes Jr. The U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force was attempting to serve multiple warrants against Hughes at a home on Galway Drive in East Charlotte when they were met with active gunfire. According to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, Hughes was shot and killed during the encounter. 2 other people were found inside the house after Hughes was killed. According to police, CMPD hasn't identified either person, and CMPD Police Chief Johnny Jennings said Tuesday they are not charged at this time. North Carolina state records show Hughes was convicted of breaking and entering in Person County, which is north of Raleigh-Durham, in 2010. He spent approximately 6 months in prison before being released in May 2011. Hughes was arrested in June 2012 after a high-speed chase in Alamance County, which is east of Greensboro and west of Raleigh-Durham. Deputies said Hughes led them on a chase at speeds over 100 miles per hour after turning around to avoid a checkpoint. At the time, he was wanted on several warrants in numerous counties for failing to appear in court. He spent nearly a year in prison for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and speeding to elude arrest. Hughes was arrested by CMPD on multiple drug charges in May 2021. He was also charged with fleeing or eluding arrest with a motor vehicle. He was released from jail hours later, records show.
After a gunman they were trying to arrest opens fire.
You just said 4 cops got shot.
Yeah, they did.
Oh my.
Shots fired at officer, possibly 1 down. Correction, 2 down, subjects barricaded themselves.
Helicopters surveilling. Schools put on lockdown.
We were at the track and we could hear a lot of gunshots.
SWAT teams storming the area. Armed police, guns drawn, descending on the scene. Neighbors describing the mayhem as police took over their house.
They used one of our bedrooms to set up a U.S. Marshal sniper in just to get a point.
The violent exchange shocking the community, forcing local stations to break into normally scheduled programming.
All hands on deck on this incredibly sad day.
The attack was unusually violent. ABC News has learned the man they were attempting to arrest was allegedly wanted on multiple charges.
3 people lost their lives today. Keep your prayers, keep your faith. Make sure that these officers who have families have people to reach out and hold them up.
Tonight, the U.S. Marshals are in mourning over those wounded and killed. One official telling me is, quote, devastating. A terrible day. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Washington.
A breaking news update. One of the deadliest days for law enforcement in nearly a decade. 4 officers shot and killed and several others hurt in Charlotte, North Carolina.
CBS 2's Jermont Terry following the developments from the newsroom for us tonight. Jermont?
Joe and Erica, the deadly law enforcement shooting in Charlotte came around the same time Chicago paused to remember CPD's fallen officer, Weska. A tough day for police as a total of 8 officers from the North Carolina Task Force were shot. And late tonight, a 4th officer also died while serving that warrant.
Shots fired at officer, possibly 1 down. Subjects, correction, 2 down, subjects barricaded themselves.
When this call went out over police radio, it was clear the North Carolina Task Force was attacked and more officers were needed. The person who barricaded himself inside a home is the same man investigators say fired first when he spotted the task force moving in.
We were driving by, we heard about over 100 gunshots. It sounded like World War III.
By the time officers from every nearby agency responded,
something is happening. It's really bad.
Neighbors were floored by what was playing out in their backyard.
There was shots ringing left and right. We had SWAT and U.S. Marshals set up snipers in our bedrooms. Sure got drugged by his arms to our house.
During the shootout, 8 members of this U.S. Marshal Task Force were injured. 3 were killed, and Joshua Ayer from the Charlotte Police Department, the 4th to die.
Today we lost some heroes that are out to just simply trying to keep our community safe.
Police say 1 suspect was also killed, and they're questioning 2 other people found inside the house. That warrant was for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. It was an intense SWAT situation. Officers put themselves in line of fire to rescue their injured comrades still in the crossfire. Some scary moments which turned deadly, but one highlighting the risk every law enforcement officer faces daily.
These are people that care deeply about what they've done for a profession, and now today we have to say to them how much we are grateful for what they have done.
Now, the FBI is on scene to help in the investigation in North Carolina. Meanwhile, officers from the Chicago Police Department will travel to North Carolina in the coming days to honor the fallen officers there.
Into that horrific shootout in North Carolina that killed 4 officers and wounded 4 others, all trying to serve an active felony warrant when the suspect opened fire. ABC's Faith Abube describing the moments that followed.
4 police officers killed and 4 others injured after trying to serve felony warrants in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Shots fired at officer, possibly 1 down. Correction, 2 down. Subjects barricaded himself.
The officers, part of a U.S. Marshal's Fugitive Task Force, descended on this home looking for convicted felon 39-year-old Terry Clark Hughes Jr. Authorities say Hughes opened fire on the officers. Listen closely and you can hear at least 1 gunshot as a stunned bystander records it all. Neighbors describing the mayhem as police took over their house.
They used one of our bedrooms to set up a U.S. Marshal sniper in.
Helicopters hovered and schools put on lockdown during the 4-hour standoff.
We were at the track and we could hear a lot of gunshots.
Overnight, Officer Joshua Ayer, a 6-year veteran of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, succumbing to his injuries, leaving behind a wife and 3-year-old son.
Keep your prayers, keep your faith. Make sure that these officers who have families have people to reach out and hold them up.
And officers Sam Pelosi and William Elliott also died in that shootout. We're waiting for identification of the 4th officer. In the meantime, the police chief says 4 other officers wounded in this shooting are stable, and the suspect died on his front lawn in the shootout with police. In Charlotte, North Carolina.